Hey, how's it going, guys? In this tutorial, we're going to create an Excel application to run SQL queries in Excel. Alright, so this is a tool that I created a long time ago when I was working in the banking industry. And I pictured that today there will be a similar tool, or at least improved tool, which will allow you to write SQL queries against your Excel data. But I guess not. So I decided to recreate this tool from scratch as a tutorial. Alright, so before we begin, let me show you what the application looks like. So here I create a shortcut key to launch the user form of the Excel application. And the user form is a very simple interface. We have a text field which allows you to write your SQL queries. And we have a list widget or list box which will populate the tables based on your Excel spreadsheet. And below that we have three buttons. So the clear button is going to clear everything in the text field. So if I write select everything from XYZ, the clear button is going to simply clear the text. The close button is going to close the user form. Right, so here we have two tables populated, customers and orders, based on the tables I have in my Excel spreadsheet. Here, let me close the user form. Assuming that I'm a data analyst or financial analyst, and I decide to insert a new table. And let's name this table suppliers. I'm simply going to create three columns. So let's call this column A. Right now, this time if I launch the user form, so noticing that here we have a new table called suppliers. So here I have a typo. Now if I double click on the table name, suppliers, assuming that I didn't mistype the name. When I double click on the table name, it's going to populate the general select all statement for me. Now if I click on run, that will create a new worksheet, sheet 7 in this case. And the worksheet is going to populate the reporting result. I can also perform joins such as left join, inner join, right join. The beauty with that is when we use VLOOKUP or index match function in Excel, and assuming that one of the items, the parent items, has multiple results. When we use the lookup functions, we can only display one corresponding result. If we use SQL queries, we'll be able to return all the corresponding results. And the other advantage is, here let's visit the pros and cons. Using this Excel SQL application or interface, we'll be able to incorporate our own automation script embedded to this user form. And this way is way more efficient and practical than using auto filters and some other features that are built in Excel. And item number 2, I didn't mention that before, that we can compensate the weakness of VLOOKUP or index match, where only one corresponding result is returned. And if we didn't know SQL, then it's going to be extremely easy to pick up. And we can quickly perform some other data cleanup tasks, such as remove duplicates, merge tables, join tables, and so on. And item 6 is very similar to item number 1. Right, so let's talk about the cons. So one of the drawbacks with using this user form is the lack of documentation. Unfortunately, there are not that many resources that will show you how to use the SQL engines that Excel uses. And for me, because I have been working with Excel development for, I guess, more than 10 years now, I was able to dig into the backend to figure out how to perform different joins and how to perform certain functions. And the drawback number 2 is we'll be using VBA to write all different features and functions. With that being said, let's start creating this Excel SQL user form. Right, so here I create a new Excel template. And you can download this Excel file from the link in the description below. Alright, so the first step is we need to make sure that we have the developer ribbon enabled. And if you don't see the developer ribbon enabled, go to File, Options, and on the left hand side, click on Customize Ribbon. And just make sure that developer is checked. Alright, so once you enable the developer ribbon, want to open the VBA window by clicking on Visual Basic. So here we need to include the library reference that we need to use. So go to Tools, References, and make sure that Microsoft ActiveX Data Objects followed by the version number is checked. And based on your Excel version for Excel 2010, 2013, 16, the version number may be a little bit different. I'm using Microsoft 365, so my version number is 6.1. Alright, so here let's create our modules to implement the functionalities. Here, so let me rename the module as M Excel SQL. Just rename the module as something that you can easily identify the purpose of this module. Alright, so here I'm going to create a subroutine called query Excel. This function allows us to pass a SQL statement to return the output. So my parameter is going to be a SQL statement, a string, since we're going to pass a text string. Here I'm going to declare my variables and objects. So this is going to be adodb.connection object, record set object, and it's going to be adodb command object. Next is going to be the connection string, SQL statement string. Oops, this should be a string. And worksheet object. And followed by my helper variables. So I as integer, I check as integer. I also want to get the number of records, so name this variable num records as long. Alright, so here we're going to create a connection string first. I'll just copy paste the string. And notice that here I'm setting the workbook object as active workbook. That means we'll be able to use the same tool to any Excel spreadsheets. Next, we're going to create our connection object. So using the create object function, we'll pass the object name. And it's going to be adodb.connection. I also want to create my record set object using the same approach. So I'll pass the object name adodb.recordSet. Next, I'm going to pass the SQL statement argument value to the SQL variable. I'll convert the string to uppercase. Alright, so here let's see. So here I want to insert air handler. So here I'll type on air, go to air handle. I'll insert my air handle statement at the end of this subroutine. I'll print the message air colon followed by the air description. And I want to return the icon as VB exclamation. And for the message box title, so let's call this an Excel SQL tool. Then I want to go to the door statement. Just do clean up statement. Alright, so the cleanup location is going to be here. So type clean up. Inside the cleanup statement, I want to type exit sub to exit the subroutine. So basically, when we run into air, it's going to print this message. Then it's going to go to the cleanup statement. Then it's going to clean out all the objects and followed by exiting out the subroutine. Right, so here I'm going to say that if record set state is other than 0, then I want to close the connection. And same with the connection object. So if the state is other than 0, then I want to close the connection. And followed by setting all the objects as empty. Right, so that looks pretty good so far. Let's go back. So here I'm going to open the connection. So I'll type connection.open, and I'll pass the connection string. And here means nodes. So open connection. And if we examine the connection string, so here we're actually using this ace.oledb engine. And for the data source, we're using the Excel spreadsheet as the data source. It also specifies that in the extended properties value. So there are actually a couple things we can do using SQL statements. One is to create the records. And the other thing we can do is we can update records, delete records, and insert records. So here, that's one of the functions I forgot to mention in the beginning. But anyway, so here I want to insert a left function, and I'll pass the SQL queries string. And if the first 6 tags is updates, or if the SQL statement contains the text, insert into, then we know it's going to be an action query. Then we can perform the update SQL statement. So from connection, the execute, and we'll pass the SQL statement. And because we're affecting records, I want to grab the number of records that are affected. So I'll pass the num_records variable. Next, I want to print the number of records got impact. So records, there should be a space. Records updated. Otherwise, we know it's going to be a select statement. So it's going to be updating the records. Actually, inserting the records. Otherwise, we know it's going to be a select statement. So this will be query records. So from the record set object, the open, we'll pass the SQL statement. In the connection, it will set the cursor type as AD open dynamic. So that gives us the most flexibility when it comes to query different items. I also want to lock the record set when we are running the query. Here I'll select AD lock optimistic. So the second item. Now we're going to put all the returned records in a new spreadsheet, in a new worksheet. So this is going to be insert output records. Actually, let's call this result set. Insert result set to a new tab. Alright, so I'll create a new worksheet first. So set WS. I want to use active workbook.worksheets.add. And here I'll insert the with statement. And within the worksheet object, I want to move the worksheet after, here let's see, so we'll move the worksheet to the last position. So here I'll type active workbook.worksheets.count. And I want to insert the result set in cell A2. Copy from record set. And insert the record set object. Next, we need to insert the column headers. So for I is equals to 0 to record set.fields.counts. And because the array starts from 0, so we need to subtract the value by 1. And here we're going to insert the column names. So it's going to be I plus 1 because in Excel the array starts from 1. And to insert the column names, so we want to type rst.fields. It will pass the index value .name. And that should be it. Oh, and ends if statement. Alright, so we can test this subroutine right now. So that's everything we need to write to create this function. Now here I'm going to create a subroutine code test. For the SQL statement, I'm simply just going to use select wildcard from followed by the table name, customers. And in Excel, if we want to reference a worksheet, we need to insert the worksheet name followed by a $sign. Now I want to code this function, query Excel function. Alright, so if I press F5 to run the SQL statement, and here we have a typo. Alright, let's try again. And here I'm getting the ActiveX components cannot create object. Let's take a look. So there might be a typo somewhere. I'll put a breakpoint right here. And let me come out the error handle statement. So that will basically stop the line where the error occurs. Alright, so it's this one right here. And the issue here is I have a typo. This should be ADODB. Alright, great. So this works. So notice that here we create a new worksheet called sheet 1. And this is the result set from the customers table. Alright, so let's put the error handle statement back. Alright, so everything looks great. Now we can create our user form. Here, let me right click, insert user form. And I'll expand the window maybe this big. And I'll start by setting the default font style. So I'll click on the user form. Then I'll press F4 to open the properties window. Alright, so here let me rename the form first. And I'll name this form FRM Excel SQL. Next, I want to go to fonts and double click. And here I'll use my Open Sans font style. And I'll set the default font size to 10. And for the caption, let's call this Excel SQL tool. And for the background color, so here I'm using this, I don't know what it's called, but it's a type of green. You can update your background color based on your preference. Right, now let's insert our controls. And if you don't see the toolbox, you can go to the top and click on this toolbox icon. Otherwise, you can always go to View and launch the toolbox window this way as well. Right, so we need to insert a text box and a list box and push buttons. So insert one push button. And I'll make 2 more copies. And I'll move the text box here, just to make sure that they are horizontally aligned. Oh, one more thing. Here, let's click on the text box and make sure that I set the let me see, this will be a particle tab key behavior. Make sure that I set that to true. And what I would do is when you type something in the text field, you can actually use the tab key inside the text box. Otherwise, when you press the tab key, it's going to set the focus to the next available control. Alright, so we're going to configure the push button first. So this is going to be push button run. So I'll name this as CMD run. And for the caption, I'll type run. I also want to set the shortcut to letter R. And here I'll increase the font size to, let's do 12. Right, so I'll do 12 and I'll set that to bold. And I'll change the font color to maybe, let's do green. And let me delete these two push buttons. I'll just make a copy of this one. Now I'll click the push button in the middle. Here notice that the spacing is not even. Right. And it's going to be the reset button. So CMD reset as the name. And for the caption, let's do reset. And I'll set the shortcut key to letter E. And it's going to be close. So CMD close. And for the shortcut, I want to assign letter L. Oh, one more thing, I forgot to change the color. Alright, so this I'll use orange. And for the close button, I'll use red. I'll increase the heights for these three push buttons. So I'll set the height to 40. Actually, that's too much. Let's do 35. Still too much. 32 maybe? Okay, 32 looks pretty good. And I'll move the buttons upward a little bit. And let me shrink the text field. Now here let's start with implementing the function to the close button. And to close the user form, we just need to type unload followed by the object name. And with the user form, we can just type me to reference the user form. Oh, and this one more thing I forgot to do. I forgot to rename the text box name. And let's name this as txt SQL. And for the list box, let's name this as lst tables. Alright, now let's go back to the VBA window. So we can simply just double click on one of the controls. And I'll delete this. Now let's implement the function to the reset push button. So the behavior we want is simply clear the text field. So it's pretty easy. So we can just type me.txt SQL.value. It will set the value as empty string. Next, I want to implement the function to populate the tables when we launch the user form. So from the drop-down, we want to select user form. And from the events list, we want to select initialize. So this event will fire when we launch the application. Here I'll create my worksheet object. So dim ws as worksheet. And I want to iterate every single worksheet in this active Excel spreadsheet. So with me. And first I want to make sure that when we launch the user form location is going to be aligned with the your computer monitor. So I'll set the top value as application.top. And for the left value, it's going to be application.left. And here we need to clear the table first. Then we can insert the table names. Here I want to say that for each worksheet in active workbook.worksheets. And if the worksheet is visible, then I can add the worksheet name to the list box. Right, so here let's give it a try. So if I launch the user form, here's my tables. And I don't like the font size, so here I want to increase the font size to, let's do 14 on both list box and text box. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It may be a little bit too big for some of the users, but you can always change the font size. Alright, so what is next? Alright, so here let's do the behavior. When we double click on a table name, then we want to populate the default SQL query to select all the records from that table. Alright, so here I want to go into the list box item. So the list box object is going to be LST tables. And I want to select the double click event. So DBL click. And I'll delete this event. Alright, so first we want to clear the SQL statement. Next, we can type select everything. So select wildcard. And I want to insert a new line. Then I want to insert the font statement, font, square bracket, and followed by the table name. It should be LST tables .value. And because the engine requires inserting the $sign to represent the Excel table, so here we need to insert the $sign, followed by closing square bracket. Let's give it a try. Oh, here should be Phoebe new line. Okay, so let's go back to the text box and let's display the properties window. The next thing I'm going to try is I'm going to set the multi-line property to true. Alright, so this time the issue is fixed and everything else looks good. Alright, so I don't like the extra space here. I'll move the push button towards the top a little bit. Alright, so let's go back. And what else? Oh, now let's work on the wrong push button. Actually, let me go back. I want to rename this as query, CMD query. And I'll set the shortcut key to letter Q. Now from the top, I want to choose CMD query. And it's going to be the click event. Alright, so here we're going to declare a SQL variable, a string. I want to grab the text value from the text box. And here I want to insert validation to check to make sure that there's any text in the SQL variable. If the character size is equals to 0, then I want to insert a message. No SQL statement is available. And access sub. Otherwise, I'm going to call the query Excel function, and I'll pass the SQL statement. So this is everything we need to write to build this user form. Now, oh, there's one more thing. Let's go back to the MXL SQL module. we need to create a subroutine to launch the user form. Here I'm going to name this subroutine show Excel SQL query form. Then I want to grab the Excel user form name, form Excel SQL.show. For the model type, I want to set that to Phoebe, modelless. And that's it. Alright, so here I'll delete the test subroutine. Now if we go to View, Macros, and here we have the Show Excel Query Form. I want to go to Options, and I want to assign a shortcut key. And I will assign the shortcut keys to Ctrl-Shift-E. Now if I use the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-E to launch the user form, then here's the application. I'm going to double click on the customers table, and I'll use the shortcut Alt-Q to run the SQL statement. And worksheet number 2 is going to get created, followed by the result set. And assuming that I don't want to query all the fields, I just want to grab certain fields. So for example, company column, let's insert that in a new line. Oh, so here it doesn't let me insert a new line. Now let's go back to the user form. Alright, so here let's look at the enter field behavior. Here, let's set this to true, and we'll see what happens. So let's say I want to select company name, last name, and because last name field has a space in between, so we need to wrap the field name with a square bracket. And this time if I press the enter key, and it's going to go to the next line. And here I can type the table name, customers, and followed by the $ symbol. And let's do one more field. And let's grab the city column as well. And I'll use the shortcut LQ. And this time it returns 3 columns: company name, last name, and cities. And notice that I cannot click on the Excel spreadsheet. Let me see what's going on. So yeah, let me try again. Okay, so that seems to be fixed. I don't know what happened. So that was example number 1, how to write simple queries to query your records. I want to show you a couple other tricks that I use to filter my record set. Alright, so here let me delete these 3 tabs. Alright, so assuming that I want to filter my customers, let's do by cities. So I want to filter my customer by cities. So we can either insert the word clause followed by the column name, city. And if we simply just want to query one city at a time, then we can insert the equal sign followed by a pair of single quotation. Inside the single quotation, we can insert the city name. So let's do Seattle. And run the query. And that will return the result set with the city name of Seattle. But if I want to return multiple cities, so here let's say I want to return the customers in Seattle, Chicago. Let's do one more. Let's do San Francisco. And if I run the query, that will return all the customers in Seattle, Chicago, and San Francisco. And I made a typo. Let's check. Oh, yeah, so I made a typo. I forgot the R. Alright, so here is my San Francisco customer. And that's some of the basic example on how to query your result set. And there's one more thing I want to show you. Here, let's go to the orders table. Alright, so from this table, I have here, let's go to the top. I have 2 columns with different dates. In here, let's say I want to query my result set from the orders table, where the order date is between January 1st to February 28th. And because order date has a space, so we need to insert a pair of square brackets to wrap the field name. In SQL query, we can use the statement between to specify a range. And here, remember, I can insert the date value as a regular string. So here, let me try it. We need to insert the year value first, followed by the month value and day value. And to specify the end range, we need to use the end statement. And it's going to be 2020, February 28th. Right, so if I run the query, and here I'm getting a syntax error. Right, so that means, and because we're using what we call the Jet engine, and this is the same SQL engine that Microsoft Access uses. So here we can actually use the syntax that Access uses by insert the pound sign and run the query. Right, so that will return the data set with all the dates is between January 1st to February 28th. Right, so here my date value is returned as integers. Here let me format the value to short date. And if we examine all the dates, we can see that all the dates are within this date range. And the last example I want to show you is how to write joins. Alright, so if we look at the orders table, here let's go from customers. So customers is going to be my parents table. And I'll name this table as T1. I'll insert, here, let's do this. So here let me write the join first. And I want to perform a left join against the orders table. And I'll name the table as T2. And from the orders table, my key is going to be customer. So here I'll type T2.customer is equals to T1. And the field name is going to be company. And here I want to return all the records from both tables. Here I can simply type the table name followed by all the fields and T2 followed by all the fields. And run the query. Oh, and here I have a syntax error. Oh, here. Okay, so here saying that I cannot locate the table. Right, so here this should be a dollar symbol. So that was my mistake. Now if I run the query, and this time the query is able to execute it successfully. Now it's going to create sheet 8. So here noticing that it's giving me every single fields from both tables. And with the customers table as the parents table. Alright, so this is everything I want to share in this video. And hopefully you guys found this video useful. And feel free to leave your feedback and your comment in the comment section below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.